Welcome to Sense of Self, a conversation series about reclaiming our narratives, where we dive deep into the journeys that shape who we are. I'm your host, Dr. Gowrie Aragon.
And I remember my dad and his wife at the time just staring at me, and they just said, also, your Christmas gift is that you don't have to see us anymore.
In today's episode, I speak with Dr. Kayla Shabre, a clinical psychologist, choreographer, and former cheerleader for the San Francisco 49ers football team. In my conversation with Kayla, we talk about what it was like to grow up navigating bullying and body image struggles, all while constantly pushing herself, pursuing a doctorate in psychology, and performing as a member of the 49ers, even as she quietly battled an eating disorder. When Kayla was cut from the team, it felt as though her world was unraveling, but that moment became a powerful turning point. In this conversation, we explore what it means to move beyond perfectionism, to embrace vulnerability and community, and to make an intentional commitment to your own well-being. Kayla shares how through this journey, she's found a sense of wholeness and self-acceptance she never thought possible. As a heads up, this podcast episode contains a discussion about eating disorders and body image, which may be triggering or distressing for some listeners. If you or someone you know is struggling with thoughts of self-harm or suicide, please seek help from a mental health professional or contact a crisis helpline. It is important to note these discussions do not constitute mental health care. Each guest has given their consent to participate, has had full control over what aspects of their journey were shared, and either currently engages in therapy or has done so in the past. So get comfortable, take a breath, and join us for another conversation about breaking cycles, finding hope, and reclaiming what it means to be yourself. This is Sense of Self. Let's get started. It'd be great if you could just share with us your name and where you grew up.
Yes, I'm Kayla Shabre, and I grew up in the Bay Area, specifically Fremont, California.
Kayla Shabre, is that your full name?
Shabre is my middle name, so Kayla Shabre Rosella is my last name.
And can you tell us where your name comes from?
Yeah, so on my dad's side, a lot of the women in my family, they take the first three letters, so Sh, and then you can add whatever to the end. And so my mom liked the Bree, and so Shabre.
What is your parents' background?
So my dad is Black and Asian, and then my mom is Mexican and white.
There are a lot more people in the Bay, I think, of mixed heritage, or was it still something where you felt different than the others?
I felt different growing up. I had a conversation with my mom, not really understanding why people would see me as one ethnicity. I would tell her I'm confused. I'm a bunch of different ethnicities. So I didn't see many mixed heritage when I grew up.
Or are you an only child?
Yeah, only child, and I went to predominantly white school and experienced some racism there.
So your mom was a single mom, and so I think, when did you realize that?
Probably the fifth grade or so. I was seeing my dad on the weekends, but that kind of stopped. And so I think I realized that my mom was mom and dad, and she would say that as well. So for Father's Day and Mother's Day, we would celebrate her. She got two holidays.
You did mention your dad and how you were seeing him, but then that stopped. Are you cool sharing what the context around that was, why things stopped?
When I would not be with my mom, I would just have this very big emotional response when I was with my dad. It's I just wanted to be with my mom, so I would only see him on the weekends. It was Christmas time, and I remember I had just opened up a Barbie doll that I wanted at the time. And then I remember my dad and his wife at the time just staring at me there was something else to be followed after that. And they just said, also, your Christmas gift is that you don't have to see us anymore, which was really... I think as a kid, I didn't really understand. I'm kind of excited because I get to be with my mom, but also I think this feels a little weird. I don't know if this is necessarily right.
After you left Christmas time and their home, when was the next time that you saw your dad?
Oh, probably not until, grad school. Yeah, when I had reached out to him. So I think, the last time I had saw him was when I was 5 or so, and then just no contact at all. So he really missed a big part of my life, sports and college and all these things. And I didn't reach out to him until my first year of grad school.
How did you talk to your mom about this?
Thinking back to it right now, I remember she was upset, but she didn't really go into detail why she was upset.
Yeah.
And so I'm pretty sure she called my dad and was yelling and mad at him, and my mom was just kind of all right, let's just roll with this. You have been crying over there, and it's just gonna be me and you.
Do you remember even back then, how you made sense of it for yourself? Like, was any part of that, do you remember at all how it made you feel about yourself?
Yeah, and it makes me emotional because like him and I just talked about this like about 2 weeks ago because he came over and I told him that when you made that decision, it made me almost like, I feel like I had issues with absence of love because he said like, well, I always loved you. And it's like, oh, I didn't really know that though. So then I feel like it manifested in the form of like, I'm dating guys who are having this like, almost like rejection. But then I would like chase it, you know, like, oh, they're not texting me back. Like, let me try a little bit harder. And just like the mixed signals that kind of like men would give me or friendships. It's like I would try and like figure it out and try and conceptualize it like, oh, I think they love me or like me because they said this one thing. I was just kind of telling my dad, I feel like I wouldn't take things so personal in life either if he was around more because of his perspective in life. It's just, he's very like clear-headed. And I feel like if I had his perspective growing up, I feel like I could have healed a little bit differently.
Going back to when you were a kid, what kind of went through your head and how did you talk to yourself when you were that age?
I think I didn't really understand my ethnic background. Like I have the curly hair, but I'm also a little bit lighter skinned. So I didn't really understand how like the world was viewing me as like only African American when I was like really proud and embracing all of my ethnicities back then. So I just feel like I didn't really understand like where I kind of fit in, like with the white kids or the black kids. There wasn't many people I felt that looked like me when I was younger.
You ultimately ended up leaving that school. What happened there?
Yeah, so when I went to that school, I was just experiencing a lot of racism. So a lot of white kids sending me notes in school with the N-word on it or threatening me. And one of the kids came to my house and stood outside of my bedroom window and threw something in my window, and he was making threats and trying to intimidate me, and just kids throwing things at my head and things like that. And so my mom, she decided to get a restraining order against this one kid specifically. And then their parents came back and did a restraining order. It was just, and I didn't understand that either when I was growing up. I was like, Mom, I don't understand. I didn't do anything though. Why would they put a restraining order on me? And she was just kind of explaining to me about just racism and how like that can play out. Sometimes someone trying to paint you as like, you're the person that did all these things when really you didn't.
It's so extreme and so aggressive and so violent in many ways, right? Like it was one of those things where you were trying so hard to be just like a good kid and just do what you're supposed to do and not cause trouble. Yet you were in a space where things just happened that you couldn't make sense of.
Yes. Yeah. So my mom, she transferred me to a school that just had Black and brown kids. And I just felt so in my element because I was very shy when I was younger as well. I just experienced bullying, kind of always just had one friend. But when I went to this school, it was just like I had so many friends and I just came out of my shell. I even did a talent show, a solo dance performance by myself. Still to this day, I can't even believe I did that. But it also marked where I am today. That was like the start of it. I think because I went to that school, it pulled that confidence out of me to where I wanted to be a dancer and choreographer.
What were you like when you were at that school and at that age?
Very talkative, very social, just talking to a bunch of different kids and running around. Yeah, I just remember being very like confident in myself, and I feel like starting to feel myself for the first time. I don't even know how I came about to do that talent show, but I think I was just so confident maybe around my peers and the people that I knew would be in the crowd as well, and just tapping into that childlike, just running on the playground type energy.
That's such a powerful shift, right? Just in the past 2 minutes of talking about how things were to how things became within the span of just a few years. And so much of what you're saying is just the comfort you had around your friends and the people that you were with. What else would you attribute that kind of confidence to? Like you had been questioning yourself and then you weren't anymore. What do you think changed?
My mom knew I struggled with just speaking up and being social. So she put me in cheer when I was younger. With cheer, you're forced to yell, as loud as you possibly can. It also just teaches you work ethic and kind of just connecting with other people your age. And I feel like that also helped blossom me and be confident.
I wish that for every young girl. And like, I wish for that type of opportunity for people to express themselves, for things to shift in that way, or for you to have the chance to do that. What was your relationship with your body and with food at that time?
I was feeling like I was in a slightly larger body than my peers. So my mom kind of making like a lot of body image comments that kind of made me aware of my body at a young age. She's always been like a personal trainer, like just focusing on health and wellness and food, I think for herself. And so I think a lot of that got projected onto me to where I also became aware of it at a young age. I feel like I understand that more now, but back then, obviously I did not understand that. So yeah, I think I was just aware of my body probably younger than I would have liked to be aware of it.
Now here you are, Kayla, sort of being like, oh, I'm like hyper aware of all this stuff, which most kids don't learn ever, let alone like when they're that young, because it's just not a part of their home life. How did it impact how you took care of yourself when you were a teenager?
I think I was doing a lot of like body scanning or like mirror checking, or like paid more attention to like how my clothes fit on my body or how my clothes complemented my body or not. Wasn't necessarily aware of like weight per se, just like, yeah, clothes and the way I looked.
How did that affect your behavior, if at all, or any choices that you made?
Not at that age in elementary, maybe in like high school where it started changing a little bit more, where like, oh, I can control my food intake or I can exercise a little bit more.
Is that common? Do you work with a lot of kids where the first step essentially is just heightened body awareness without necessarily any behavior change yet?
Yeah, it's usually heightened body awareness, and it's usually a parent that brings their awareness to it. It's usually always the moms. And then it's maybe like peers, maybe like a peer made like a bullying type of comment, but it's usually the awareness phase and then them trying to like control next.
Here you are, Kayla, like you're feeling confident. You found peers that make you feel good about yourself, or at least comfortable. There's this ongoing track of just like bodily awareness. Were you like a competitive person?
Yeah, I call it like my athlete mindset is still very much present. It's a double-edged sword. Sometimes I can get too competitive, but I think my mom instilled that in me as well. So I always did cheer, basketball, and swim when I was younger, from 9 years old all the way through college and beyond. But yeah, I learned how to like multitask and juggle things.
How did that make you feel about yourself when you were just doing all this stuff?
Very accomplished. And when I'm multitasking, it's adrenaline rush. I feel like it's a part of like my personality and who I am as well. So I like to do many different things. That's why, like, now being like a psychologist and doing dance, I feel like I wouldn't be as fulfilled if I was just doing one. But it's also like a double-edged sword, because sometimes when I have the adrenaline rush, then, oh, I'm burnt out and here we are. Now I need rest.
So you went into this college part of life being confident, you're feeling better about yourself, you are wanting to do all the things and do them really well. I'm setting that stage because it gives, I think, a sense of your mindset going into this, right? And where you've come after everything you've just shared. You started to cheer in college, right?
So I initially swam at my college, and then I don't know how to explain. I just had this almost like spiritual experience where I just felt like I'm meant to be doing something else, and it almost got to a point where I resented getting into the water just because of the schedule. I was swimming 3 times a day and weights as well, and I didn't want to experience college like that all 4 years. And so yeah, I told the coach that I just feel like I'm meant to be doing something else and I don't know what that is. And I remember like crying and walking down the hall in the gym, and I saw the dance team auditions, and I just felt like that's it. Like, I want to do that. And I didn't really have much of a dance background. Cheer is very sharp and a little different. So yeah, I auditioned for the dance team, and they picked 5 people that year, like new members, and I was one of them. And so that's where I really learned how to like kick and turn and kind of the dance technique.
You were 18, I assume-ish, when this happened?
I went to college when I was 17.
Okay, you were 17 and you believed in your intuition enough to say that there's something else I'm meant to be doing. I've had many conversations with college athletes where they may feel that way, but it's really hard to actually act on it. And you did.
One of the gifts on my dad's side of the family is they're very spiritual. They're very in tune with themselves. And I'd say that's what I'm saying. It was just a very spiritual experience. I just felt like this, coming into myself where I just had a very heightened awareness of myself and my spiritual self in that moment. That was the starting point of me just developing even more into my intuition and spirituality and tapping into myself, because who I am today is I'm very in tune. Oh, if I feel it, no, that's what it is. I'm just going to go for it.
So tell us, how did you go from there to then becoming a cheerleader for the 49ers?
Yeah, so I was on the dance team for my college, and then I was also on the cheer team as well. So I would often change uniforms at halftime, which was really fun. And then again, that intuition came up and just said I think you could be doing something else as well. There's even something bigger. And it's you know what? Life's too short. Maybe I should just try out for the Niners. I just want to go for my dreams. I just want to do something big. And yeah, because of that moment, I decided to audition for the Niners. So I got a trainer, I got a dance coach, nutritionist, and I just built this team. And I remember I hit up this coach who had a semi-pro dance team at the time. He had already formulated his team. And I said, hey, can you please just let me audition? Let me just be a part of the team so I can train. I want to be on the Niners. So I came in for an audition. He put me on the team and he said, give me 6 months and I think you can make Niners. And so I was driving to Berkeley and San Jose and all these places to meet with my team. And it literally, the day I auditioned for Niners was 6 months. And I ended up making the team. There were 800 girls who tried out that year, and they had about 10 spots open or so. And I ended up being one of those 10 people.
Holy crap. Oh my goodness. It's the power of intuition, right? And the power of self-belief and just being persistent when you know something is meant for you. Just to have that intentionality and to craft that team and to really go for it, but then to do it from this really deep inner place of knowing and faith is again something people really strive to for their whole life. They strive to feel that, right? Experience that. And you tapped into it even then. So when you were on that team though, because you're now a psychologist, tell us about that.
I knew I wanted to be a psychologist my first year in college. And then while I was on Niners, I went to grad school. I was pursuing my master's in sports psychology and my doctorate in clinical psychology at the same time. Yeah. So I was doing that my entire Niner career.
So you were studying to be a psychologist and then also a cheerleader. And it was around this time where you ended up reconnecting with your dad. Am I right?
Yeah. So I reconnected with my dad my first year in grad school. Because when you go to school to be a psychologist, your first year is all about you need to know you. For you and for your clients. And so they really dive deep into culture, your family background, traumas, and all these things. And one of the first assignments is a genogram where you map out your family members and your relationship to them. And then you have to present it in front of the whole class. We talked about being raised by a single mom. I just always had this constant playing record of, my mom taught me how to be determined. I was raised by a single mom and just very happy about it. And I didn't mention my dad, really. My classmates were asking me questions hey, where's your dad? Do you talk to your dad? And I just remember breaking down and crying because I didn't know what to say because it was disrupting this record player that I had been rehearsing. I think that was the first time I was aware that I've been rehearsing and saying the same thing for majority of my life on who I am and how my mom raised me. I just realized that if I'm crying about this and if I don't really know what to say to these people, then that means that's a gray area in my life that needs to be addressed. And I was just envisioning if I'm meeting with a client and they're struggling with an absent father, how can I navigate that dynamic with them if I haven't even done it myself or walked through it. And I went to the parking lot and I was you know what? That intuition, I'm going to call my dad. I have this number from when I was 6 years old or so on my phone and I'm just going to call it. And I don't know if he will pick up. And I called him and he picked up. And it's crazy. He actually just told me when I saw him 2 weeks ago, he said that day that I called him, He had just got out of a massage and he just turned on his phone. And the moment his phone lit up, my phone call came through. Crazy. And I just think back like, wow, what if I would have called, and it went to voicemail or something. It was just perfect divine timing. And I think just following those nudges when you don't really know the outcome is just really important.
When you connected with him, what did that lead to?
I just told him, hey, we need to meet up for lunch. There's things I think we should talk about and unpack. And so we did. And I literally just thought back to everything when I was younger that I was confused about or I thought was not right. I brought up the Christmas things, and it was just interesting hearing his perspective from it with our adult wise minds, my child mind, how I conceptualize that, and then hearing his side. Oh, okay. And then also my mom's side of things, like, oh, I can now see and formulate what I believe now or understand now and just have that middle ground. And I appreciate the way he owned up to things and acknowledged, like, yeah, that was messed up. And there's some choices I wish I didn't make. Like, I could have chose differently. And he just told me when I saw him recently that he regrets not being a part of my life for those pivotal years and how he thanked my stepdad for really stepping in and kind of being a father figure for me. And he just said that's something I'll just always regret.
Yeah. How did that feel for you, if you remember? And it sounds like it was overall a positive experience for you. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it just offered a lot of healing to be able to understand or just to hear his voice, and hear what he would have to say. Because I feel there's a lot of absence, there's a lot of silence. And sometimes when there's silence, we can tend to fill it with our own narratives or just formulate things to also protect us or also make us really sad and things like that. So it was just, I felt like a sense of relief and release, and we just chatted about how we could move forward and how I'd love for him to be a part of my life in these, next years.
And so this incredibly deep healing process was happening in one lane of your life. Another lane of your life was a super intense professional athletic endeavor of cheerleading and dancing for a professional football team. Not just any professional football team, but the 49ers. Who was Kayla in that setting?
I got on the team when I was very young. I really feel like because I was so young when I got on Niners, I was also absorbing all these things that made me a great choreographer and dancer today. But also I was absorbing things such as wanting to people please, wanting to be perfect, wanting my body to be perfect so that way I can make it back on the team next year. And there's always this underlying, I have to make it back. I have to make the coaches happy. I have to stand out. Where it's just this mental gymnastics, which is where I feel like my athlete mindset was oh yeah, adrenaline rush, something to achieve. But I was just always chasing something to where I never really felt fully fulfilled.
You mentioned how in high school, heightened body awareness was what had happened. Was this a time where you actually adjusting and shifting your behaviors around body and food?
When I was deciding to train for Niners, that's when I was starting to, in that becoming of, oh, I can work out really hard or eat a certain way to get my body tight to where I want it to be for auditions. And then when I got on the team, it was just really unhealthy, fully into an eating disorder, because I was oh, I got on the team. Now I want to remain on the team. And I got on the team by working really hard on my body. So I have to keep that up. And then you have my mom in the mix, who's also that trainer, focusing, thinking that she can help me. And so it was just not the best combination for my body and eating disorder.
Something had already been primed in you, and then you go into the spotlight, and it's yes, you had intuition that you could do that and do it well, but oftentimes that doesn't always come with the wisdom of later age, which is oh, but also going into that space is going to yield a totally new challenge. And then it just kind of explodes when it's at that level. When you are a dancer in that space and you're in the spotlight, what type of feedback were you getting from coaches, from fans, and how did you internalize that and do something with it?
There's just so many fans, and you'll see, for me, I would see a lot of fans pointing at, everyone points at the cheerleaders, you could be, oh, this one's cute, this, they'll do that, oh, you're cute, you're not cute. It made me feel oh, they're looking looking at my body or they're comparing my body to my other teammates. And it's like, is my body okay enough for game day right now? And so it's like when I'm cheering at a game, I'm having a very internal process where I don't even really feel like I'm fully able to be present and enjoying the game. But also I was a captain, so I had to be present and pay attention to the game. So I'm like trying to navigate that and body image. And I feel like just always keeping up with health and fitness is just always a topic.
Like we talk about chain reactions. And what I mean by that for those listening is like, there's a trigger, like someone points at you and says something or makes a face, you interpret it in a certain way, or it's very explicit. And then it's sort of like it's the first domino and then a sequence of thoughts you have and then things you end up doing in reaction to that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different examples. For me, I internalize like whenever the coaches are looking at the dancers, that's their job, you know, but for me, when my coaches would look at the way I'm dancing, I internalize that as, oh, they're looking at my body. They're maybe trying to see maybe how I looked compared to last week. I'd be like, oh, I have to show that I've been working on my fitness and show that I'm putting in work outside. Because if I look tired, then it looks like I haven't been working hard. I'm not dedicated. So it's like these things that maybe other people could be like, oh, yay, we're working out in practice. For me, it was like, no, I also need to show that my stomach doesn't jiggle when I'm working out, or just little things like that.
So you were having all these thoughts of like mandates to yourself of this is what needs to happen. And then what did that look like in terms of what you would choose for yourself or not choose for yourself in terms of working out, eating, etc.?
I would run in a sauna suit and run 6 miles like in the hills every day, rain or shine. And I also would do those as fasted runs, so I wouldn't eat anything. I used to like weigh myself probably 2 or 3 times a day. So after I would eat something, I would weigh myself to see how much that food impacted my body. I used to look at my body every morning, like in the mirror when I would get up. A lot of restriction. You know, I think my mom was encouraging me like, oh, well, like, what if you go on like Weight Watchers? So then I did Weight Watchers for a little bit. And so just constantly monitoring and myself and controlling my food and my body so that way I can be a professional athlete. I used to wear a shirt that said train like an NFL cheerleader. And I thought that's what training like an NFL cheerleader was. And now I know that is not the best way, but that's what I thought it was.
When you're describing this, it's like I can sense the laser focus and the blinders that it takes. I'm even imagining being in your mindset before you're about to like run these fasted hills in a sweatsuit. It's like, that is what matters. That is what makes sense. That is what is going to happen now. You know what I mean? It's like part of like a checklist.
Yes.
In some ways, in the moment, it can almost feel like there's no emotion attached to it, even though we now know there's really a lot of emotion attached to it. How long did this last?
6 years.
And during that time, were there ever any instances where you thought, maybe I could be doing things differently, or maybe this isn't the best for me?
I had no awareness at all.
Was there something inherent to all of this that kind of kept motivating you to push forward?
Yeah, like there could always be something better or that I can, improve. And I think, those seeds were just planted years ago. It was like the perfect storm for it to just really show.
I appreciate you being so honest about what you went through, because it is, again, this is what you do for a living now, is you help people through this. And it's obvious how in it you were, where you only questioned this to think about what you could be doing better. You're in a different place now, but let's talk a little bit about how that happened. When did you first start to realize that something was off?
When I went to go audition for Niners for my 7th year, I ended up getting cut from the team in the first round, and I was just in complete shock. Again, if we talk about that record player that was playing like with my mom, it was almost like I was in that same flow with the Niners and doing that 6 years of my life, to where it just got disrupted when I got cut from the team. And I remember that was like the first time in my life I experienced like almost dissociation and just shock and like trauma, just standing very still, like outer body experience. I couldn't feel myself. I remember that whole day, and Yeah, it just makes me emotional still sometimes, but it was one of the best things to ever happen to me. But I think that it took a lot to kind of grow from that experience.
You're saying that when you first started to realize something was off was kind of spearheaded by you being cut from the team. And just for context sake, you're saying that it was traumatic, you dissociated. And just to remind people listening, this was not just about the team, right? When you were cut from the team, you just had this conversation with your dad, right? About how
Yes.
these abandonment or feeling rejected, these things,
Yeah.
they run deep. And so you can work them out on an intellectual level with someone, maybe even partially emotionally with that person. But that doesn't mean that the impact on you and your body is suddenly gone, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it can take time, right? Sometimes there are these things that will pull something up that you didn't even realize was still there. And so it sounds like this was not just about being cut from the team, although that was a big deal, just given how much you had been in it. And when you're in something and you're pulled out of it suddenly, it can be
Yes.
very jarring, it can feel very violent. That just kind of is
Yeah.
the nature of it. And then when it's also reminiscent of something from your past from so long ago, and you don't have awareness of that in the moment, for it to lead to dissociation, for it to lead to that kind of thing, means that there was more to it than that, right? It's just inherent.
Yeah.
You mentioned that in the moment, you just were like, you're remembering that day and what it felt like. What did you do in those days after? Those days to weeks to even months after that happened?
I just felt this like, oh, I gotta have a comeback. I gotta have like a comeback season, meaning like auditioning for another team. And so I immediately hopped into training for another pro team. I hired a trainer and I was in that adrenaline athlete mindset, like, oh, come back. And then the day that I was going to audition for that team ended up being the same date that I had a big doctoral exam. And that exam meant that you would be allowed to graduate. I felt like the universe was just saying, no, now is not the time. And it was a blessing that happened because it made me reflect on like, wow, I just wanted to hop back in. And I feel like the universe was like, no, we can stay out of that world and let's learn about ourselves.
I'm sure that you had a pretty intense schedule and suddenly that fully changes. What did that look like?
Once I actually said, okay, I'm not auditioning, I actually realized that was the first Saturday that I had free since maybe I was a kid, because for swimming, I was always swimming on Saturday. Dance, even in college, was always on a Saturday night or Saturday. And I realized, oh my God, this is like the first Saturday I have. And so I just really started having that self-reflective voice, which is almost like a therapist voice was like really kicking in of like, what do I even like to do on a Saturday? I just did not know at all.
Yeah.
And so I just started doing things that maybe the Kayla before Niners maybe enjoyed and maybe this new Kayla would like to enjoy as well. And so I used Saturdays and the weekend as an opportunity to learn more about myself and the things that maybe I liked. And I had decided that, okay, this is a homecoming back to my true self and learning and discovering new things about myself. And that's when I realized, like, oh my God, I have an eating disorder. Now that I don't have any necessarily motivation to, I'm not in a two-piece every weekend. So why am I restricting my food? And why am I only working out to appear skinnier? I'm not a cheerleader anymore.
How did being cut from the team impact your mental health?
I experience a lot of like, trauma, like just mental conditioning, and depressed for a little bit, but then that athlete mindset kicked in. We're going to do something, so the depression, very short time, maybe like 2 weeks or so.
Yeah.
But like those things, those pillars that were instilled in me when I was younger, I'm like very strengths-based and keep pushing it forward. But also like, I think I realized in that phase of my life, like it's good to push forward, but it's also good to reflect as well. Cause then you just start burying stuff and pushing it down.
What a blessing in many ways that you were going through schooling in a field that was actually facilitating you sort of dealing with this stuff and coping with what was happening. And on one hand, like this athlete mindset is what led you to being in this position of feeling like you had weren't taking care of yourself in a way that was healthy. On the other hand, it also allowed you to kind of repurpose it and use it in a way to be really intentional and get to where you are today, which is like a really beautiful thing. Yeah, what is your relationship like with your body and your image now?
When I got cut from the team, I started realizing a lot of my eating disorder patterns and behaviors. And I started realizing that weighing myself doesn't do anything positive for my mental health. It just makes me spiral. So then I got rid of the scale. I started working out without any time watch or anything monitoring my calories and just enjoying being outside. Now I feel like in a really good place about my body image. I feel like I really enjoy like my thighs and my butt. And it's really fun to dance in like this new body that I didn't really get to like fully embrace back then.
What did your support system look like during that time that you were sort of rebuilding and being intentional and finding new Kayla?
Anytime I was having like negative thoughts or kind of in a spiral where I started to get very internal, I would make sure to call a friend, call a family member, and we would talk about it and talk through it and help pull me out and reshift my focus and to help pull me along. So that was really helpful.
Were there friendships you were able to rekindle in some ways that maybe had taken a backseat?
Yeah, and that's something that I always like try and tell people who are currently on a pro team and they're about to retire, like connect with that support system now. I think the more and more I was doing that, the more I just felt like so connected. And because I feel like when I got cut from Niners, I felt very like just alone, like I got kicked out of a system. I think I was very vulnerable at the time, crying a lot and things like that. But I think it was a part of like the healing process and journey. Like I wanted to be very honest because I felt like when I was on Niners, I wasn't very honest with myself at all. I wanted to just do things differently in that era of my life. Like I want to be honest with people. And, you know, even when I talked to like my stepdad, for example, about it, he's like, Kayla, and he lived with me. He's like, I had no idea you were even experiencing like an eating disorder, you know, because you masked it like so well. Like, oh, I'm just working out because I have a game. And so I think it was also healing conversations with people. When I was transparent, we can like backtrack and go to those past experiences where they learned a lot about me and also how they can support me moving forward as well.
What kinds of things did you ask for in terms of support moving forward?
Like with my mom, I told her that, you know, I don't want us to talk about my body at all in any context, whether it looks good, bad, or neutral. I just told her that where I'm at in my life, I don't want to be on Weight Watchers. I don't want to be on a meal plan. I want to intuitively eat. And so to not suggest anything like that for me. And I just told her the best way she could be helpful was like just listening and just helping me be transparent and just be a part of like my healing process and journey to unpack the Niner stuff and for us to hang out more as well and hang out to where I don't feel like she's judging my body. And with friends, I just told them I need to hang out with people on the weekends. Like I really want to make my weekends a fruitful experience and just needing more phone calls and stuff.
Like when you have that connection, when you are seeing those people on the weekends, how does that impact you and your sense of who you are?
I feel like it reminds me of running on the playground, you know, like from back then. I think that's like, even like today, like, I don't know if you see, I post like Sassy Clubhouse, you know, and like I get a group of girls together and we go out and I like decorate the table and things like that. And it's like things like that remind me of like, just being like that childlike freeness. And so it's like, that's what I really try to like embody to this day. And that's what connection gives me.
I think every single conversation I've had in this context, pretty much everyone, like it comes back to those same basics, really embracing that kid running on the playground. And if they didn't have a chance to even do that, like embracing what that would have been like is such a core tenet to so many therapies that we do formally, but also to like just like spiritually feel free and well as an adult for as long as you live. You know, over how many years, right? Like how many years has it been now since you were cut from the Niners?
See, I got in 2018.
Yeah, almost 7 years.
Yeah, 7 years. Yeah.
So almost kind of the equivalent of you being on the team, right? And it's an ongoing process because, like we said, it's not just about the Niners. It's about kind of what came before that. But I just really appreciate you showcasing how intentionality can really lead to a lot. not just the awareness, but then like asking for what you need, which is easier said than done, I know. But you've now done that in some of the most difficult of circumstances, whether it be early on with your dad or like more recently with your mom when it comes to body image. These are really difficult things to just stand your ground and ask for and like feel okay asking for them. You know, like you're allowed to ask for that. Can you share with us sort of what you do now as for work? Because you just, there's a new endeavor that you've just recently embarked upon, right?
Yeah, so I've been a clinical director at a lot of different eating disorder facilities. Again, I had that intuitive hunch. I felt like I meant to start a therapy private practice and just to be able to help more people. And also just, I feel like I've been working so hard my entire life and I just wanted a schedule with ease. And I feel like I deserve to feel that calm and not be in that student mindset or that athlete mindset. So yeah, I started a therapy private practice. It's called So and Flow Therapy. Yeah, I do sports psychology work as well, like with athletes, really help them with their athlete mindsets and eating disorder clients and also general mental health. And then I'm also a professional choreographer for NFL, NBA teams. And so I travel and do dance conventions, and I also do like dance privates as well. So a lot of my day-to-day right now is like I'll do dance privates and then I'll hop in a therapy session, or I'm teaching a class or things like that. So it's really nice to like dive into both. I feel like I'm really in my purpose right now.
I'm just curious, you're still doing that same combination of things. Like you're still a psychologist and you're still dancing. How would you say things are different now? Like how do you go from being Kayla, the choreographer, who is, you know, coming off a flight to your therapy session and then showing up as Dr. Shabre?
Well, I feel like because like when I got cut from Niners and I did all of that like work and feel like I really had that homecoming to myself. So now it's like I know that I'm a person that likes to empower people to be their best selves. I want people to be confident. So it's like all these like pillars that I know who I am, I feel like are the same for Dr. Shabre and Sassy Hip Hop. They're both the same. So I feel like I can really be like my full self and I don't feel like I have to take on and off a mask, which is what I was doing a lot back then.
Well, thank you so much, Kayla, for sharing all of this. And lastly, if you had to describe Dr. Kayla Shabre now, how would you describe yourself?
Yeah, I'd say confident in who I am. I feel like when I walk with a purpose and very sure of myself with every step. And I feel like I know myself in any room that I'm in. And I feel like that helps me so that way I'm not wavering and kind of get knocked over by waves and start questioning myself. I feel very empowered and I really like who I am today. I like the way my body is and I love how tapped in I am to the universe and the divine. And yeah, just following those intuitive nudges, which is also another thing I tell people is follow those intuitive nudges, even if you don't know what it would look like at the end.
Thank you all for listening to Kayla's story. We hope you enjoyed it and that you'll tune in for episode 2 of Sense of Self next week. We'll be speaking with Hetal Basavada about her journey to becoming at Milk and Cardamom, the beloved food blogger, recipe developer, and cookbook author. Please follow us on Instagram and TikTok at senseofself.podcast and subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch all the episodes from season 2 and to catch up on season 1 and its companion expert series. You can also learn more and join our email list at our website, www.senseofselfpod.com. This episode was produced by Dr. Gauri Aragon and Janice Vogel. It was mixed by Brie Matan with music from Blue Dot Sessions.